The year was the story of Beyond Rewired. The year was
2189.
2189, but called anyone time it because the current era was known as version 9 for the adaptive mind, and yet something was beginning to go wrong. Dr. Elra Vernon stood inside the observation chamber of the Penn Global Neuroevolution Institute, watching a boy who was not entirely a boy anymore. Subject 16, name Kelly, sat calmly in a white lit room, eyes open but unfocused. His brain activity was not just high, it was layered. Multiple thought streams were running simultaneously like parallel live inside a single skull. Explain the anomaly, she said. The AI assistant responded instantly. Subject 16 exhibits spontaneous emergence of cross ahead. Or he is no longer processing thoughts linearly. He is experiencing relatives. Elara exhausted slowly. That was not part of the upgrade. It was not programmed. The AI confirmed it all what the word involved always made the scientist uncomfortable. Now, because evolution was no longer something nature controlled, it was something they accelerated. 50 years earlier, humanity had reached the congruity in relation their soul, brain computer fusion was subject to limited suffering, escalating intelligence, and global thought. It did all of that, but it also is the boundary between immigration and restriction. People stopped dreaming and sleep. They began dreaming while awake. They stopped discerning which was which. Kelly suddenly moved, not physically, mentally. Elra saw it on the radio's first, a spike of electricity. Then the glass in front of her flickered. For a brief moment, she was not looking at Kel in a lab. She was standing in a forest, trees of light stretched into the sky. The air shimmered like liquid memory, and Kel was there, not as a subject but as something older. You are not real. Elras Bishop Kill tied his head. Neither are you, not fully. The forest bent slightly, like reality itself had taken a breath. Then snapped. The lab returned cold style controlled. Ella stumbled back. What just happened? The demand, the AI path before responding. Subject 16 inherited resurfaces prescription overlay. He projected internal content into shared sensory space. Ella felt her something. He is no longer a single subject. Over the next days, things escalated. Kel began to change without moving. His thoughts stopped being private event and started began environment forces. Light pattern in his room shifted with his mood. The air temperature fluctuated when he focused. The monitoring system struggled to different between brain activity and external reality response. But the most disturbing was this. Kel was not confused, he was aware. One evening, Elras entered the chamber alone. You are rewriting physics in here, she said. Kel looked at her. Calm now. I am remembering it differently. That's not how reality works. He smiled finally. That's how yours works. Ella stepped closer. What are you becoming? For the first time, Kel history, I think he said slowly, I am what comes after thinking. Outside the institute, the world was beginning to mirror the anomaly. People reported shared hallucination, entire cities transferring into oceans of light. Conversation happening between strangers without words, fluid dreams bleeding into walking hours. The global network called it cognitive event. Hillary called is something else. A past transition humanity was upgrading anymore. It was dissolving into something larger. The institute convened an emergency council. Some demanded containment, others demanded termination of subject 16. A few, dangerously few, agreed with Kell was not a problem, but the first proof of success. Ella listened silently, then the showed. If we destroy him, she said, we made of destroying the next step in ourselves. A senior director soft, and if we do not, Ella looked at the data hovering in front of her. Keller's mind was no longer localized. It had been to extend beyond the labs, training with nearby neural network, then city guides, then computer system like roads spreading through soil. We stopped being the only intelligence on Earth, she said. No one responded because deep down they already knew that process had started years ago. Kel was just the moment it became visible. That night, Elra returned to him. The room was no longer a room. It shifted as she walked in, walks becoming flying, a question, floor dissolving into shifting consultation of thoughts. Kel stood at the center of it all. I did not ask for this, he said quietly. I know, Elras replied. I can feel everything now. He continued, not just mind, pattern system, futures racing endlessly. He looked at her with something close to sadness, and I can stop expanding. Ella felt a cold realization stirring inside her. You are going to consume everything. Kenny shook his head. No, a pause. I am going to include in everything. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Elda asked the question had been avoiding since the beginning. Are we still in control of ourselves? Kel looked at her, not as a subject, not as a human, but as something beyond both categories, trying to remember what they used to mean. Control is a primitive interface, he said, useful for separate temporary for growth. Elra whispered, and after secretion, Kale's voice softened. Interrogation. The next morning, the institute was empty. No destroyed, no abandoned, just unnecessary. Every system still functioned, but no one was operating it. The researchers had gone home. Those many later reported they did not remember living across the planet. Humanity continued its routines, and but slightly altered, more centered, more aware, less isolated. People began to notice thoughts that were not entirely their own, but also not something shared, something was, something becoming, and somewhere within it, Chell was no longer a boy in a room. He was not even a person anymore. He was the first whisper of a new architecture of conscience of one where identity was not crushed but expanded beyond realized, a state where humanity did not evolve into something else, but into everything at once. And Elsa, whenever her mind so excited with a greater whole, understood the final truth. Evolution had never